Ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year and Happy 2022. This is my predictions for the Drivers and Constructors Championships for the 2022 Formula 1 season. I'm going to begin with my drivers, and then at the end of the video, I'll quickly rattle through my constructor predictions as well, because by then, you'll kind of know which teams I think are going to be stronger and which teams I think are going to be weaker. But yeah, let's jump straight into it. Coming in 20th place, I have got Nikita Mazepin to finish last for a second year in a row. To be honest, last year, I didn't really see kind of enough potential, enough even little moments. I know the car was bad and that the team kind of spent they basically binned off 2021 to focus on 2022, but even so, I think there is still a lot to be desired from Nikita Mazepin. I think he needs to learn a lot, and I still don't think that he's going to have a great season. In 19th, I have got Guan Yu Zhou, the only rookie on the 2022 grid. Now, obviously, Guan Yu Zhou, who's obviously an Alpine young driver, so there's quite interesting little links there, even though he's at Alfa Romeo. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs on him, given that he is the first ever Chinese driver. He does come into Formula 1 as a paid driver. Don't get me wrong, he is a decent racing driver, and I think he will have some okay performances. No doubt he will make mistakes, because there were quite a few mistakes in his junior career, so definitely expect that, but I think he will do an okay job. And as a little bit of a mini prediction, kind of along with this prediction, I don't think he will be in Alfa Romeo for 2023, but I do still think that he will be in F1 in 2023, given that the Chinese Grand Prix is coming back, and I think a lot of teams and a lot of Formula 1 in general are going to want to keep him in the sport. But nevertheless, I think he will finish 19th in his rookie season. In 18th place, I have got Mick Schumacher. Now, this might kind of tell you the trust I have in Haas, which I still have my doubts about Haas, let's just say that, but I do think Mick will actually have a pretty good season in what I don't think is going to be a great car. I think Mick Schumacher is going to make a big jump up, because throughout his junior career, he's always took 2 seasons, both in Formula 3 and in Formula 2, and I feel like in Formula 1 as well, I think he's going to make a big improvement and hopefully definitely score more points and be more of a contender in that midfield. But I still think that the car is going to be the variable that holds him back, but hopefully he does get some highlights and we see him developing even more, and I think again it's going to be a very spicy teammate dynamic between him and Nikita as well. Coming in 17th place, I have got Nicholas Latifi. Now, I do think that Williams are going to be better in 2022, and I really do hope that we get to see Nicholas Latifi kind of almost be more in the midfield. Let's really see what he can do when he's given an okay car that, on occasion, can fight for good points. I still have my doubts about Nicholas Latifi. He's a nice guy. He is a competent driver. He doesn't crash that much. Yes, Abu Dhabi aside and all of that controversy, but he's a solid driver. He's a nice guy, but I still think he lacks something. That's why I don't quite trust him enough, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with his brand new teammate, Alex Albon, with George Russell, who is firmly on top of Nicholas Latifi. Like, how is Albon and Latifi, how is that dynamic going to be? I can't wait to see what that's going to be all about, but sadly, I don't think Nicholas Latifi is going to have an explosive season, but I really do hope that he proves me wrong. In 16th, and this was actually a bit of a tricky one, and to be honest, I might have put this guy a little bit too low, because I have got Valtteri Bottas. Now, it's all about Alfa Romeo, isn't it? Because genuinely, I do think that, if I'm wrong about this, by the way, and Alfa Romeo produced one of the best cars in the midfield, maybe even the 5th or 6th fastest car, I think we're going to see Bottas on the podium. And to be honest, I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw him as a surprise kind of podium sitter. You know, we see kind of these random midfield podiums happen all the time, even last year. And Valtteri Bottas, without the pressure of Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton being his teammate, his own team, Alfa Romeo, I think he could have a very good season. And we could see the Bottas of 2017 and the Bottas of the Williams years as well, because he is a quality driver. It's just obviously driving for Mercedes that comes with a different type of pressure, but I can't wait to see what Valtteri can do without that pressure and just on his own raw talent in that midfield. But I just don't think that Alfa Romeo are going to be the team to smash these 2022 regs, but I do think that Valtteri is going to do a very solid job, and I would not be surprised to see him on the podium. Coming in 15th place, I have got Yuki Tsunoda. Now, I'll be honest with you, Alpha Tauri is just probably the most difficult team to try and kind of figure out where they're going to be, and that's why it makes it even more difficult to figure out where their drivers are going to be as well. He definitely is going to be under massive pressure in 2022. There are so many amazing Red Bull juniors. I mean, a lot of people, me including, kind of was surprised that he was kept on and got signed pretty early for 2022, considering how bad his rookie season season was. I do think he's going to make progress. There's no doubt about it. But again, I don't think the car is actually going to be as good as it was in 2021. But hopefully he can keep it out of the barriers, just kind of keep it clean and consistent. That's what I'm hoping for, and kind of grow as a driver and as a person as well. But yeah, again, I don't think it's going to be the best of seasons for both Yuki Tsunoda, but also Alpha Tauri. In 14th place, I have got Lance Stroll. Now, to be brutally honest, I think he did an okay job against Sebastian Vettel in 2021, and I actually think, and if you saw my top 5 worst drivers, you'll know that obviously he was part of my top 5, and what I said is that there was an opportunity for him to beat Sebastian Vettel and kind of catch Seb off guard as he was kind of getting used to Aston Martin, but now I think Seb will firmly be on top of Lance Stroll, and I think there is just better drivers, and I think in better cars that are going to finish above of Lance Stroll. In 13th place, I have got a driver that I really did want to put higher, and I think he's going to prove me wrong. I think this is actually going to be a wrong prediction, but I have got Pierre Gasly. Now, again, in terms of Gasly, I have zero worries. He is going to be amazing in qualifying. He's a great overtaker as well. He doesn't mind getting his elbows out, and he just does a solid job. What a season he had in 2021. He just missed out of my top 5 drivers of the season. But again, I just think Alpha Tauri are going to take a step back. I don't have any doubts in Pierre because I think he's looking beyond Alpha Tauri. He's going to be looking, for a potential seat at another team in 2023. So he is going to be a man on a mission. But sadly, I don't think the car is going to be as good as it was in 2021. But you know what? I think Pierre Gasly is going to be on the podium, no doubt about it. Coming in at number 12, I have got the returning Alex Albon. Now, this is probably my biggest out there prediction. I think Alex is going to have a very good season. I think the way it ended at the end of 2020, it obviously wasn't great, but what's really interesting is that there is a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Let's not get it twisted, because Williams have not picked him up to be a comfortable number 2. They haven't picked him up to kind of support Nicholas Latifi. They have picked him up because they need to replace a driver of a caliber of George Russell, and Alex Albon is the team's number 1 driver. He needs to deliver for the team. He needs to beat Nicholas Latifi, and on days where there are really big results on the table, if the circumstances arise, if it's a crazy race, Alex Albon needs to deliver, and I think Williams as a team are also going to get better. So yeah, this is probably my biggest kind of out there prediction, but yeah, I have got Alex Albon to have a pretty decent comeback season in 2022. In 11th place, I have got Sebastian Vettel. I think that Aston Martin will get even better. I don't think that they'll... that midfield again is so freaking tight. There are so many amazing teams, but I do think Aston Martin are going to be better. This is going to be, and actually when I get to the constructors, I'll talk more about Aston, but in terms of Seb, I think, he's going to be even more comfortable in the team. He's still got quite a few years ahead of him. He's younger than Fernando, he's younger than Lewis Hamilton, so it just takes the right team, the right environment. I think he's fairly comfortable. He's got the right kind of teammate next to him as well in terms of Lance Stroll. I don't think Lance is really going to push Seb. He's going to push Seb, of course he will, but I feel like Seb, with that kind of season to bed himself into the team, he's going to be even stronger and even better in 2022. It's just all about the car. Will it suit his driving style? Because we know if it does, that man easily is going to get a few podiums. I think Sebastian Vettel, he's going to get a few podiums. Hopefully no disqualifications as well. Hopefully he gets to keep all of those podiums. And, again, you never know, a crazy race. Seb, sometimes he's got that quali magic as well. We know that he is lightning quick when he's absolutely on it. Maybe even a potential win for Aston Martin. That would be great to see. But yeah, in 11th place, I have got Sebastian Vettel in a very, very, very close fight in the midfield. Well, we're into the top 10, and in 10th place, I have got Esteban Ocon. Now, he had a really, I think, very strong 2021 season, especially up against Fernando Alonso. There was a bit of a kind of rough period where I think he had some problems with his chassis, but he was so consistent, so dependable. Of course, he got his first ever win in Hungary, which was great to see, but I just think that there's going to be such a spicy battle in that midfield, and I think he's just a little bit going to fall short of his teammate Fernando Alonso and some of the other drivers as well who are coming up. I still think he's going to have a great season. Could he pull out another win? Could you imagine? That would just be amazing. But yeah, I can't wait to see how he develops even further, and maybe, not just prove me wrong, but could Esteban Ocon put himself potentially in that conversation of being a future world champion, and could he beat Fernando Alonso? I think obviously I think he's going to fall just a little bit short, but I still think he's going to be the classic Esteban Ocon, consistent, reliable, quick, and also exciting to watch. So yeah, in 10th place, I have got Esteban Ocon. In ninth place, I have got Daniel Ricciardo. Now, what a big season he has coming up, because I think what this season, we talk about career-defining seasons, but boy is 2022 gonna be a big one, because in my opinion, it's gonna show, whether or not he can beat Lando is gonna be the really big question, and how much of a deficit will there be? Are they going to be like really close like Leclerc and Carlos Sainz were in 2021? Or is there going to be a concrete number one driver in that team yet again, like Lando was last year? I think 2022 is going to be a big season for Ricciardo, because we're going to find out whether 2021 with a difficult car and obviously getting used to a brand new team, whether that was just an aberration and it was just a one season kind of blip, or if this is the beginning of the road of the decline of Daniel Ricciardo. We love him as a character. He's one of my absolute favorite drivers. I say that all the time, but yeah, he has got to prove a lot of people wrong in 2022. It's going to be a massive season. In 8th place, I have got Fernando Alonso. Now, 2022 is going to be a bit of an interesting year for Fernando, because we're going to find out if he's able to build on 2021 and actually be the team leader of Alpine, or is Esteban Ocon going to get the better of him? I mean, again, as you can tell by my predictions, I think he is going to get better. I do think that Fernando is that type of athlete and driver that still has something left in the tank, as we saw in 2021. Now he's going to be fully integrated into the team, no kind of surgery and, no kind of bike crash before the season, hopefully. So it's going to be very interesting. I feel like there's also kind of really a lot of interesting things going on behind the scenes in terms of Oscar Piastri. How is Fernando going to kind of manage that as well? So he has got to deliver. I think that he will, but is he still good enough to fight it at the absolute sharp end of the midfield, and maybe even sharp end of the grid itself, with the best drivers in the midfield and the best drivers on the grid? Or, is age going to catch up with him? And is this actually going to be kind of Fernando Alonso's last season in Formula One? I still think he's got some more left in the tank. I think Alpine will improve a little bit. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be world champion. I'd love to be proved wrong, but I still think he's going to have a very solid season and hopefully more podiums on the way as well. In 7th place, I have got Lando Norris in what I'm going to call the unofficial best of the rest place. Now, I think there's going to be another team that races in red that's going to jump ahead of McLaren quite comfortably, and that's why I think that Lando Norris is going to be kind of the unofficial best of the rest. There's definitely going to be podiums, and I really do pray and hope that we're going to see Lando Norris finally get his first ever win in Formula One. He's got the quality speed, and I think he's got the composure when he is put in the right position. I think he's going to learn from some of the mistakes, like, of course, perhaps, him and the team working a little bit better than what they did in Russia in 2021. But yeah, I think Lando Norris, I think it's just McLaren that are not quite ready just yet to make that jump up to still be, or, be again, title and race winning contenders. But I think Lando Norris is still going to be the leader of that team. I still think that he does need to beat Daniel Ricciardo, though, because I think he put himself in 2021 in that conversation of future world champions. And certainly I think that Lando is going to be a future world champion, but now he needs to build on it. He needs to beat Ricciardo again, and he needs to prove once again that McLaren is his team and he is McLaren's champion of the future. In 6th place, I have got Sergio Perez. Now, to be brutally honest, I don't have kind of too much to say about Sergio, because if I was really to just summarize why I've put him in 6th place, is that I think the drivers ahead of him are just better drivers, full stop. I do think he's going to take a kind of step up in 2022. I do think he's going to get more comfortable within the team and also with the brand new car, because he'll kind of have a little bit of, or he would have had a little bit of input on the 2022 car, so he'll know a little bit better how to set it up, and he will close the gap to Max Verstappen. But again, I think ultimately, as good as he is, I just don't think he's going to be, I don't think he's as good of a driver as the other 5. In 5th place, I have got a bit of a controversial one, a very controversial one. I mean, I'm even sweating as I am about to say it. I have got the 2021 world champion Max Verstappen. Now, to be brutally honest, kind of similar to what I said about Pierre Gasly, this has nothing to do with Max. I just think that with how much Red Bull put into 2021, I think that might hamper them in 2022, and I think other teams are going to take a bigger jump up. I think we're going to see almost the Red Bull of 2018, 2019, and 2020, where I think they're going to start the season off just a little bit behind the teams ahead of them, but by the end of the season, they're going to develop and be right up there and kind of fighting for race wins, maybe even on a regular basis. But that's why I just think that Max is not going to have the equipment. I have no doubt in Max Verstappen The guy is arguably the best driver on the grid now looking at 2021, but I honestly don't think he's going to be given the equipment from day one in Bahrain to do the job. But I do think that the car is going to get better as the season progresses, but yeah, I have got, controversially no doubt, Max Verstappen in 5th place. In 4th place, I have got Carlos Sainz. I think he's going to be even better and, more importantly, have an even better car in 2022. Now, maybe this is a bit controversial to give, given the fact that Carlos is going to be there for another year. Maybe he could even beat Charles Leclerc again. But, I mean, to be fair, when I say controversial, I mean, I put Max Verstappen in 5th, so that's controversial alone. But, again, that's more to do with Red Bull. That has nothing to do with Max. As far as Carlos, I do think that he's going to be the driver that we know. He's going to be a world champion in the future, in my opinion. Maybe he will be the world champion of 2022, but I just think that his teammate is going to go to another level, and I think Charles Leclerc will get the better of Carlos. But no doubt that we are going to see Carlos Sainz, well, when I say no doubt, I'm predicting we're going to see Carlos Sainz win races in 2022 and maybe even potentially challenge for a title. In 3rd place, I have got George Russell, King Russell himself. I am a big fan of George Russell. You guys, I'm sure some of you guys might know that, but I think he's going to have a great season. I don't think he's going to have enough to beat Lewis Hamilton. I think Lewis is still in his prime. He's still operating at such a high level, but I think we're going to see, and I think because there's a lot of pressure on George Russell. There's no doubt about that. Not just the fact that he's up against Lewis Hamilton, but when you go to Mercedes, a team that expects wins and championships, he is going to have to deliver, and in my opinion, he will live up to the hype. He will be a brilliant driver. He will win multiple races if given the car to do so, and I think we are going to see why I think, in my opinion, he is on the level of Leclerc and Verstappen, and also why I think he is going to be a future multiple-time world champion. I think he's going to push Lewis Hamilton probably as hard as he's ever been pushed, or certainly, going back to maybe even his rookie season up against Fernando Alonso, and, at the peak of his and Nico's rivalry. I think that's going to be such an exciting storyline to follow, Russell versus Hamilton, but I just think that Lewis Hamilton will get the better of George Russell in their first season as teammates. Just 2 to go, and so in 2nd place, and obviously you'll be able to tell who I think will be the world champion of 2022, but in 2nd, runner-up, I have got Sir Lewis Hamilton. Wow, I mean, I'm really just hoping that we get this unbelievable season where maybe 4 or 5 drivers are able to fight for a title. Let me dream a little bit, especially after what a season we had in 2021, but I think Lewis Hamilton is just going to miss out on the driver's title. I do think that he's going to beat George Russell. Again, I still think Lewis Hamilton is in his absolute prime. He's so comfortable at Mercedes, but he is going to be pushed by George Russell. I think, to be honest, I think all of the top 4, including Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen, actually, all of the top 5, I think, are going to be very, very close. But this is just the order that I think they will finish. I think Lewis, once again, I think he will just fall a little bit short of who I think will win the World Championship, because I feel like Mercedes, I think they're going to be a little bit stronger than Red Bull, as I kind of talked about when I talked about Max Verstappen, because Mercedes, as I kind of talked about a little bit with Max Verstappen, they didn't kind of push as much in terms of car development for 2021. They focused a lot more on 2022, but yeah, I think we're going to see a shake-up in the order. I still think we're going to see Ferrari back at the sharp end, hopefully, and how amazing would it be to get a 4 or a 5 driver World Championship battle? That would just be the absolute dream. But yes, I have got Sir Lewis Hamilton to just finish as the runner-up in 2022. And so, of course, that means that the 2022 World Champion, Charles Leclerc. Now, why do I have Leclerc as my 2022 World Champion? Well, first of all, it all starts with the car, because that is the most important part. If you're not given the equipment to do the job, then you're never going to be up there, basically. I think Ferrari are going to get it right. I don't think their car is going to be dominant or going to be miles and miles out front compared to the likes of Mercedes and Red Bull, but I think Charles is going to get the equipment to do the job, and I think when he is given a car that can actually win races on a consistent basis, even more than in 2019, I think he's going to cut out and really grow as a driver. He's going to cut out some of those mistakes, because he is a driver that just drives 110% all of the time, and it really frustrates me because sometimes he makes these mistakes. He did get really unlucky in 2021. He was unbelievably quick. He had some magic performances. I got to see one with my own eyes in Silverstone. That was easily his best race of the season, and I think with where he is as a driver, with the car that hopefully he will be given, I think he is going to be the 2022 Drivers' Champion and the first Ferrari champion since Kimi Raikkonen in 2007. So yeah, that is my big prediction for 2022, Charles Leclerc to be the world champion. Well, that is my predictions for the Drivers' Championship. Now let's get into my predictions for the Constructors' Championship. And I'm going to actually kind of rattle through these a little bit quicker because for some of the teams, I don't really have too much to say. And for others, I have a little bit more to say. In terms of who I think will finish in 10th, I think it is going to be the Haas team because even though I do think that they might produce a better car and they're definitely not going to be as far off as they were in 2021, they still have to prove to me that they've learned in terms of what went wrong in 2019 and 2020, because it's all good that this is a brand new generation, Haas have had 1 year to develop their car, but have they learned fundamentally what went wrong in 2019 and 2020? That is going to be the really big test for them. And ultimately, I don't think their driver lineup is as good as the teams in front of them, and I think that might hurt them in the constructors fight. In 9th place, I have got Alfa Romeo. Now, I don't have too much to say about Alfa, as much as I do think that Valtteri is going to be a really good leader for that team. It's always difficult to know where Alfa Romeo are going. I mean, are they going to be kind of a midfield or upper midfield team? They certainly had a much better car than the Williams in 2021. They massively underdelivered. So their first problem is just to make sure that the drivers actually get the most out of that package. But even then, I don't think they're going to kind of set the world alight in 2022. In 8th place, I have got Alpha Tauri. Now, as I mentioned when I talked about Pierre Gasly, I just don't know where Alpha Tauri are going to be. Maybe they'll smash it. Maybe Alpha Tauri are going to be the 4th best car and Pierre Gasly is going to win multiple races, and that would be amazing to see, but I think some of the other teams just have a bit more kind of financial muscle, and certainly in terms of the personnel that the other teams have as well. And I just think that Alpha Tauri are going to kind of just be the team that sadly gets knocked down the grid just a little bit as a result of these brand new regs. In 7th place, I have got Williams. I think they are going to make progress. I do think that they're going to jump Alpha Tauri and I feel like they have to, because after the investment, after all of this preparation, that's really been kind of 2 years in the making, they need to show progress. And again, a lot of that is going to depend on Alex Albon. I still think their driver lineup is pretty sketchy. Like, I think Albon is going to smash it, but very easily Alex could struggle. And when it comes to Nicholas Latifi, again, is he just a paid driver, or is he actually a very solid number 2 driver that can be at the team for the long term, or is it just the money? So there's a lot that both of the drivers need to prove, but certainly the car I think is going to be better, and it definitely needs to be, because yeah, Williams have a lot of expectations and they need to start delivering. I'm not saying they're going to challenge McLaren, Alpine, or Ferrari or anything like that, but they need to show progress, and again, I think they will. I think they'll jump Alpha Tauri, but I don't think they're going to get any further than that. In 6th place, I have got Aston Martin. Now, to kind of piggyback what I said about Williams, in terms of the driver lineup, I actually think, Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll, that's a decent lineup. I don't think they're bad drivers. I mean, obviously, Seb, in the right car, he can do amazing things, and that's what it's all going to be about. Can Aston Martin deliver on the hype? Or is this just basically Force India but green? That's going to be the really big question, because when you really think about it, if you take away 2020 and 2021 where they had to develop basically the 2019 Mercedes, it's time to really see, and it's time for Aston Martin in their brand new form to really prove that they, as an independent constructor, can build a very good Formula 1 car. Because when you think about it, if we just retrace the steps a little bit back, the last time this team really built their own car from the ground up was 2019, and that was not a good car. The team has to show, are they really Aston Martin, this amazing brand, this brand new team with amazing aspirations, or are they still just that plucky Force India team, but just with a green livery? That is going to be the number one thing, because they've absolutely got the driver in Sebastian Vettel that will deliver if he's given a good enough car, but the team need to prove to Seb that they do have a future, and potentially a future of fighting for wins and maybe even world championships. In 5th place, I have got Alpine. I do think that Alpine are going to take a step up. They're another one of those teams that technically the chassis they use for 2020, 2021 has actually been from 2019. So they have been planning and they've been building for the 2022 regulations for a long time. And ultimately, it's time to see their work. It's time to see them get it right. But again, I think they have a great driver lineup. I think we saw that Fernando Alonso, if he stays at the level that he was or gets even better, and Esteban Ocon, who's only going to get better, that was a very good driver lineup. And ultimately, that's why they finished 5th ahead of Alpha Tauri, even though the car was not the 5th best on the field. But my biggest problem is that whether you want to call it Alpine, whether you want to call it Renault, or even Lotus Renault towards kind of the end of that era, that team has been so up and down. That team has been so, good season, bad season, good season, bad season. There's never been a decent trajectory for that team, and it's time for them to prove that they really do actually have the resources and have used the resources well to build a positive trajectory, because again, they had a great season in 2018, they were best of the rest. Then in 2019, they had a bad season. Then in 2020, they're back on top of the world with multiple podiums for Daniel Ricciardo and a podium for Esteban Ocon. And then you get 2021 and their car got worse from 2020. So they've just been up and down, and I still have doubts. As much as I'd love El Plan to come true, I don't have that much trust in Alpine, unfortunately. In 4th place, I have got McLaren. Now, when it comes to McLaren, I don't have too much to say about them. I think they're still going to do a decent job. I still think they're on a really good trajectory. I just don't think they're going to be as strong as Ferrari, and I don't think they're going to make that massive jump up to the point where they're going to be fighting for wins and maybe even the World Championship. In 3rd place, I have got Red Bull. Now, similar to what I said about with Max Verstappen and why I put him so low down in 5th, I just don't think that Red Bull, I still think they'll be a top team. I still think that they're going to win races, but I almost think that they're going to be in almost a 2019 situation, but not even as good as that, because again, with how much emphasis they put on 2021 to push it all the way, also in the final year of Honda as well, I'm not too worried on the power unit side, because again, there's the engine freeze, so I'm not too worried about that, but I just think that, don't get me wrong, they were working on the 2022 car, and they do have the GOAT in Adrian Newey at the helm, but I just think that with the amount of time that Ferrari spent on it, and the fact that Mercedes also spent just a little bit more on the 2022 car as well, not bringing as many upgrades last year, I think Red Bull are just going to fall down just a little bit, but ultimately, I mean, again, they've got the GOAT in Adrian Newey, and they've got Max bloody Verstappen, so yeah, this could go either way. This could be a brilliant prediction, or it could be absolutely tragic. And so, just like with Lewis and Charles, number 1 and number 2 comes down to either Mercedes or Ferrari, and the really interesting thing here is that whilst I've got Leclerc to win the driver's title, I have got Mercedes to win the constructor's title, which means that I've got Ferrari in 2nd. Now, the reason why I have got Mercedes to win the constructor's title, but for Lewis Hamilton to lose out on the driver's title, is because I think that George Russell and Lewis Hamilton are going to push each other so hard, but I think George Russell is going to be taking points away from Lewis Hamilton in the driver's title. Now, I don't want to underestimate Carlos Sainz. We know how good he is, and he is going to have a massive say in both the drivers and the constructor's title, but I think Mercedes will just edge it in a very close and hopefully, and we're all praying for this, a very exciting season where I think that Mercedes and Ferrari are going to be the 2 main teams fighting for both titles. But again, ultimately, although I think that Ferrari will edge the driver's title with Charles Leclerc, I think Mercedes are going to get them back to win the constructor's title, and of course, that would mean that it would be their 9th constructor's title in a row. Absolutely insane if that actually happens, but yeah, ultimately, I mean, these are just my predictions. Hopefully they do come true, and more than anything else, hopefully 2022 is going to be an amazing season with the brand new regulations of cars and in the brand new era of Formula 1 with all of these amazing young drivers in top teams battling out for wins and hopefully the 2022 World Championship. Well, there you have it. That is my predictions for the 2022 season. Let me know all of your crazy predictions for the upcoming season in the comments box below. And if you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to drop it a like and smash that subscribe button to support the channel. And I'll see you in the next one.